Welcome back to Project Tug. On this week's episode we're going to be putting the primary colours down on the hull. Before we get round to the painting, we're going to have to mask off the water line so we get a nice straight line. Now I'm hoping that this is going to help. Pen on a cup. People say use a block of wood, the cup's the perfect height, so let's see if we can mark a nice straight water line the first time. Fingers crossed. You can see a few of the early attempts back here. And there we go. Right, and now we've got all that lined up, it's time to get some masking tape on it and then get some paint on it. So I'm going to get this area sorted. Right then, with the cardboard down, it's time to start painting. If you've not used rattle can spray paint before for modelling things like that, you can get a bit more bang out of your buck if you leave it in warm water beforehand, and make sure you shake it up a lot before you use it. And when you're actually putting it on, don't get too close and don't try and put too much on in one coat. You get a much better finish if you do 3 or 4 light coats than one thick one. So right then, let's get to it. And I think I'm going to call that for one coat. Now give this a couple of hours to dry. Now with that dry, the bit that we've all been waiting for. I'm not expecting anything amazing, but let's see what it turns out like. So what I'm going to have to do now is mask it up again and get the red bottom part done. Whenever you're masking anything off, if you can't get it to go around with one piece, you're normally better off using 2 or 3 or 4 or as many bits as it needs really. Right, so off screen we've had a hell of a disaster. I'd accidentally picked up the wrong type of red paint, and I'd actually picked up hammered effect red paint, and when it went on, spread out, left a terrible finish. I sprayed it on, it looked fine as I was putting it on. Come back to check it when it was drying and the mess ensued. I've sanded it back, I've scraped it back, I've took everything back as good as I can. Right. So now I've got more paint and it's time to actually get the thing finished for this episode. I think we're something like 4 or 5 hours in while we've waited for this to dry and redo and everything else. But anyway, without further ado, where were we? On the plus side though, I've never actually seen a clean tug. with a bit of rust effect, it might actually end up looking the part already. So maybe it's pre-rust effect paint. You can see from my hands it was a painful hour or so of scraping and sanding. The tape's already been on it far too long, so I'm expecting it to lift. Tell you what, I'm slightly more pleased to see that the line's kept on it. There's a little bit of touch up. That'll come off with a little bit of washing up liquid though. That's actually the tape that's left on there, not any lift through to the other side. These bits are going to need a bit of a sand, and I'm going to possibly have to go along and just sharpen up a few of the edges, but after an absolute disastrous mess, I'm actually quite happy just to leave that to dry and come back and show you what it looks like after a little bit of touching up. Anyway, we're back in a bit, and after a little bit of tidying up, that's the finished product. Considering the mess it was earlier, I don't think it's turned out too bad. The paint on the lower half's a little bit bobbly. With a bit of weathering, that might actually work in its favour. I've still got a little bit of sanding to do and a few tiny touch-ups here and there, but all in all, I'm quite happy with it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for future updates. Have a good one.